Hi, I'm Vadim Poklopkin. Welcome to the chart of the day. Democracy is in retreat. Why now? And will this trend ever turn back? At the end of the Cold War, it appeared that totalitarianism had at last been vanquished and liberal democracy had won. Today, it is democracy that finds itself battered and weakened. This may sound like a political statement, but please consider the source. It's a quote from a 2018 report by Freedom House. These days, it's easy to dismiss something as fake news peddled by the left or the right, but this annual report is nonpartisan. Freedom House is a US-based, US government-funded organization that has conducted global research on democracy and human rights since 1941. Its annual Freedom in the World report is widely cited as the gold standard for monitoring civil liberties in countries around the world. Last year's report noted that 2017 marked the 12th consecutive year of decline in global freedom. Also in 2017, the US fell out of the top 20 most democratic countries for the first time in several years. And if you think that maybe 2017 was an anomaly, it was not. This year's report began by saying that 2018 marked the 13th consecutive year of decline in global freedom. In other words, the decline of democracy trend is global, and it appears to be accelerating. The question is why? After all, whether you lean left or right politically, you probably agree that democracy is the very system, the only system, that allows for the right and the left to coexist in the first place. Or, as Winston Churchill famously put it, democracy is the worst form of government except all those other forms that have been tried from time to time. So, what explains democracy's declining trend? Freedom House lists several reasons: social and economic disparities, partisan fragmentation, terrorist attacks, and an influx of refugees that has strained alliances and increased fears of the other. And that brings us to this chart. As you can see, the World Stock Index peaked over 11 years ago and remains about 20% below its all-time high. This reflects the global trend toward negative social mood. Note the four peaks in the index: March 2000, October 2007, June 2014, and January 2018. Next, note how well these four peaks align with the peaks in the percentage of the countries rated free. By this metric, 2006-2007 saw the peak in global social mood, which coincides with the all-time high in the World Stock Index. After that peak in global social mood, democracy began to retreat. You see, while most people perceive refugees, polarization, and so on as causes of the problem, socioeconomics recognizes them as the result, a consequence of a global shift towards negative social mood. If you're familiar with socioeconomics, you know its main hypothesis. News and events don't make the society happy or unhappy. It's how we collectively feel that shapes the tenor of news and events we create and experience. It seems counterintuitive, but in simplest terms, how people feel is reflected in how they act. Socioeconomists call it social mood, and the best-known barometer of social mood is the stock market. At this point, you may be asking, was any of this predictable? If you use conventional methods, then no, because those methods assume news and events will cause how the society feels and acts. But for socioeconomists who look at the stock market to forecast future trends, the answer is yes. As early as April 2010, 9 years ago, the monthly socioeconomist made this forecast. A continuing long-term trend toward negative social mood will produce increasingly authoritarian and anti-authoritarian impulses and eventually lead to the appearance of severe authoritarian regimes around the globe. So now, let's ask the most important question for everyone who values democratic norms. Will this shift away from democracy continue? On that point, this year's April Socioeconomist, which published this chart, gives you a definitive answer. You can get instant access to the April issue, as well as the current Socioeconomist and the entire library of most recent issues with your Socioeconomic membership. Below the video, you'll find 2 ways to subscribe and read now. As our still democratic nation celebrates another anniversary, it's a fitting and eye-opening read.